Hello and welcome, Henning Pauli here for HP42. Today we're looking at the Friedman Jose 20, which is a smaller version of the Jose in 20 watts instead of 100 watts. With pretty much almost the same controls, plus one more but one less. And instead of EL34s, it's got EL84s. You're done, go home, thank you. Jose Arredondo was the Marshall mod guy in the late 80s, whether it was Motley Crue or Steve Vai. You wanted that high gain soaring sound. He pretty much probably started the high gain era. Everyone looked up to him and tried to get your hands on an actual Jose modded Plexi. Good luck. Very expensive. They are all obviously modded a little bit differently. Some of them had the post-EQ master volume, and some of them had the more common pre-EQ master volume. Some of them had the extra clipping diodes. Some of them, master volume was important on the Plexis because otherwise, ouchie. And some of them had the extra tube stage in the preamp, which is important to get that high gain sound, and so on and so on. Now, Dave Friedman has had probably 70 or 80 original Jose's on, not the guy, the amps, on the bench, and he knows exactly what goes into them. Now, I would argue that if you buy a Friedman BE100, you're pretty much getting Dave's taste based on his experience with the Jose's, and probably every Friedman amp has some of that in there, just not necessarily labeled Jose. Most high-gain amp builders are probably using things they took from Jose's work, but it's not labeled as such. We all learn from each other. Now, Friedman did a cool thing. They worked together with Jose's family and Jose's daughter, who are benefiting from the sales of these amps, and officially labeled these amps Friedman Arredondo. So it's kind of a collaboration, even though Jose is no longer with us. And that's why on the back, you also see his face. We never set up the back camera. Yeah, good enough. There's his face right there, or right there. Really big Jose, small Jose on here. All I can tell you is because I did the track with this thing already, it's just fun. You turn it on, you want that screaming lead tone, you want that 80s fun rhythm chunk. Damn, is it great. It makes you work by reading the manual. It makes you work by figuring the amp out. It's a bit of work. Because it is true to a Plexi with the two volumes, which some of the amps don't do that. Some other amps just give you the not one gain, and the volumes here are the gain. But then do you want the postmaster volume? Do you want the premaster volume? This is a system volume. System. Oons. I don't know. Techno. Where was I? It makes you work. But I can't say that. You are rewarded with fucking killer sounds. Now, this means it's not limited, but you have to be on a waiting list. It's a long list. In Germany, you're forking over 4,800 euro for this thing. In the States, probably very similar. Or now, because of the dollar, probably worse. And it's 100 watts, and it's the real deal, and you want it. And it's an amp that I'm not going to sell unless I need a kidney. This, at its 20 wattage, honestly getting you the sound. I don't know about the pick attack. Like on this, when you're doing you're doing the 16s, there's even at super high gain, there's an ultra defined attack. It is ultra precise, even though it's very gainy. It's very unique. So I don't know if this does it. I haven't tried. But it gives you the whole feel of this. It gives you the controllability of that. It's all there at, I think, 17 or 1,800 euro. Now, that's not cheap for a 20 watt amp, but it's not $5,000. So if you want the Jose sounds, they are here. And I can tell you this is someone who knows this amp and someone who's recorded with this. Let's take it out of the box to see how it gets delivered. Next, let's get some product shots. And I'm going to tease the living fuck out of you by simply playing cleans. How about that? Here we go. Single coil even. What? That doesn't make a sound. This... So, why did I do that? Because I'm an asshole. But also because on this video, for this amp, I said, I don't like the cleans. You have to roll back your guitar volume, and it's not the plexi cleans. And I have to change that. I was wrong. There is 1 millimeter of settings that gets you an amazing clean sound. I think this is easier to set up. But Perfecto de Castro taught me. So on the, you can't see this because we don't have a close-up camera. So on the volumes, you have to go and crank up the normal volume to about maybe 10 o'clock. That gets you all the nice roundness. And then the bright volume, you have to go up, 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 and then nothing's happening. And then you go further up, and then it's way too bitey and horrible, like I said in the video. But there is this absolute tiniest bit of a setting in between nothing's happening and too much is happening, where all of a sudden you've got enough brightness from the bright channel to fill out the normal channel, and then it's an amazing clean. But finding that, holy, I couldn't. So thank you, Perfecto, for helping me dial that in. On this, that's pretty much what I did, but I think the range is a bit easier to find. Let's check this out. See, it's still workable. Now that's when you don't have enough. Sorry, Leslie, you have to switch back and forth. Leslie's on it. The woman's amazing. This doesn't get as brittle and bitey. Super cool clean sound on this thing. Really nice. Courtesy of that amp and the Galaxy on the board. That's where the delay and reverb comes from. Okay, before we go into it, should we do a track? Yeah. I mean, does size matter is the question. We want the big thing, but it's also really heavy and expensive. I think this delivers the sound, not at a lower volume. It is lower volume, but it's also more manageable, and I do feel that this is a little bit easier to set up. Is it because of power amp issue? I don't know, but I got to the point quicker with that. So does size matter is the question here. No, size doesn't matter. But obviously that's bullshit. Sometimes size matters. If you're trying to reach the plates in the cupboard up there and you're not tall enough, size matters. Right, Leslie?
Shut up.
Shut up, she says. The woman's tiny. This is my Sully Trella 71. One of the finest guitars I have, sound-wise, and also, she's a beaut. And very 80s-y, so that makes sense. I just put new strings on her for the track, and why didn't I play this thing more often? 25.5 inch scale, and then also call tappable. So, I turn the effect off. I have in the effects loop on the floor. You can't see that. Nope, that's not it. A TC2290 pedal. That's in the effects loop when we go more high gain because then I can't use the pedal board in front of it. Should we check with the tube screamer? I mean, is that really necessary? Of course, it works great with pedals. So, let's look at the front panel here. Try to follow me. The presence, not like Christmas. On the big one, we have two presence controls. I honestly don't really feel a big difference between them, but Perfecto says the difference is huge. The guy knows things, so let's trust him. Here we only have one. And the other one doesn't have this. There's a system volume, which is a little bit confusing because this is technically a master volume. But also, when you crank it up more, you are getting more drive. So technically, the idea is you set up the amp the way that you like it, including its post-master volume, which actually will push the power amp more, or the pre-master volume. And then once you have the sound, this is just for level, right? But of course, cranking it up more, pushing the power amp, will get you more drive. So it's not just level. So it's an additional master volume, and I'm a bit confused. But system volume technically should describe it as just pick your volume, don't change the sound too much. I think that's the general idea. Then we got the post-master volume control, which is active in technically gain style to the right and gain style in the middle. So this is after the EQ, even though if we read from the left, it's before the EQ, but we're probably reading from the right. So this is not just volume, but also obviously drive because you're pushing things. Then we've got tone stack, of course, bass metal treble. And then the pre-master volume control. So if we're switching to that, there should also be a clipping diode. Is that correct? I'm not sure. So we're doing the whole part that is coming now because I was very confused. Because in the manual it says left and left, but there's obviously left and right. So we're going to start with the left. So the gain style switch on the left is not this master volume, but rather this. So that's the pre-EQ master volume, moves the master volume earlier in the circuit and adds diode clipping, producing a higher gain, increased compression, enhanced sustain for more aggressive tones. In the middle, master volume is effectively later in the signal path, meaning it's the post-master volume control. And if you want it out, like a normal plexi, you literally just crank it up all the way. And that's the typical plexi setting now if we have this all the way up. If you go to the right, it is still the post-master volume control, and it introduces another clipping stage, tighter, more response, blah, blah. Okay, so we got that. In the middle, we got the most plexi. Then we've got volume 1, which is bright, volume 2, which is normal. We got the plexi setting or the drive setting. The drive setting adds this drive knob, which adds another tube. And then there's a fat switch or a not so fat switch. Let's try the fat switch with the clean, because why not? Does it do anything there? Because it kind of suggests being all the way over there that it's only when the drive is in, but I don't think so. can't hear it right now. So, what are you hearing? You hear it? Hello? You can't go there. There are cables, Noodle. You have to go around. Then he rather just leaves. Hearing a V30, UK V30, in the Grossman Fat Box, mic'd with an SM57 and an AEA Nuvo 22 ribbon. There's also a Sennheiser MK421 compact in there. So that's an amazing silent speaker. It's not all the way silent, but it's as quiet as it could be, because at those volumes, my head would be blown off. And I'm monitoring that through an RCF floor monitor in the room here. That way we can really crank it. And I'm too old for that shit to be in the room with the cab. I think we covered that it can really do amazing cleans. So let's crank this shit up on the Plexi mode here. See, it says system volume, but it also does change the sound, because obviously you're pushing the tubes more. If you want real Plexi, you gotta crank that shit up. What just happened to the other Henning and the whole other setup? That was about a week ago when I didn't understand the amp. So I showed you some stuff and that's all good. But then the amp started to sound dull. Because, as I mentioned, it has 5 master volume controls. The standard Plexi, Bright, and Normal are master volumes, right? And then it's got the Jose master volumes, the pre or the post. And then this one has a system volume, which is meant to take whatever sound you have and put it at the level where you like it. And I pretty much had all of them dimed. 'Cause why not? I had it in an ISO cab. Couldn't hear how loud it was, probably very. And I just didn't kill the tubes, but made them slightly dull by just pushing them too hard. Because according to Dave Friedman, I didn't understand the amp. And you know what? Dave is correct. So Dave, well, helped me fix the tubes and also set me settings. So what we're going to do is do Dave's settings. Dave also says, on Plexi mode, don't even fiddle with the gain thing, right? The gain style. Well, of course you can, and of course we will, because we're not listening to Dave all the way. So you can get a bit more compression and a bit more drive with the different gain styles on Plexi mode, but he says that's really for drive mode. Again, I didn't know. He also had very different volumes suggested than I had dialed in. It's all about the danger of running it with an ISO cab or a load box where you don't quite know what you're doing and you just want a bit more push. There's a lot of push there, but you're not hearing it. That's the problem. So we're gonna start with the second thing he told me, Plexi mode. Of course. Well, because Dave says, nobody buys it for Plexi mode. Well, but you could and you should, because it's great. So I'm going to try to read this. This time around, we still have the 2290p in the effects loop for the 80s delay if we need it, but we're going to turn that off. And we're running through the aux with the Creamback loaded 412. So, 7 to 12. I mean, cleans we had, right? We explained this. And then, you know, the normal or round warm one to taste. It's a delicate fiddling between the two volumes. I have the Galaxy on here. But he says 7 to 10. Because Dave is rock and roll. So we're about all the freaking way up there. This is volume 2 off unless you want it rounder. Oh, that was on. And then volume 2 gets a bit fatter, right? Is that necessary in a mix? Probably not that. Gain style center, post EQ master at 10. Because if the gain style is in center, the post EQ master is that one. And he says at 10. So we're really plexing, we're not reducing that. And now the system, he says at 8. There we go. So this is what I noticed right here. Right about at 5, there's a jump in gain. Now I had this cranked to 10 and that probably was just too much. If we take this lower, you can play at lower volumes. And then you take this down, Dave says. And that reduces the headroom and gets us a bit more cranky. Let's try this to the right. I mean, it's pretty quiet here now, but again, that's because I'm using a load box. Definitely more open. Now if we get that master volume, I know it's still the post master volume, but if we get that switch to the right, we have the extra clipping diodes. Okay, so with the pre-EQ master volume, I felt that there was a low-end bump that we got. Okay, we're gonna go to where Dave says the money in this amp is well spent, and I would agree. You're not buying this for plexi. There are many great plexi-style amps in this or lower price ranges, maybe even with more watts, if you want a great plexi, which this is. But obviously Dave is fully right. It's all in the gain. So what does he say? Volume 1, 7 to 10. Dave knows no other setting for volume 1. Who needs clean? A little lower than 10, then the bright cap kicks in and it tightens the sound. So pretty much all the way up, no bright cap. And then anything lower than 10, you have the bright cap. And we're going to try that. Gain knob at 10. Dave, have you heard about subtle? Friedman. Okay, let's crank this shit up. Unless you want less gain, you use that knob to reduce gain. Dave, you smartass. I know a little bit about amps, you know? That fucker. He's coming here to visit. If I could, I would hit him, but I can't. Start with the gain style in the center. Oh, there we go. Okay, let's be nice here. Set post EQ master at about 4. Okay, now we're talking. Very different. It'll be much higher to match the level. We don't want to push the power section in hard gain mode. Okay, I understand. So, let's see. I mean, that's all that sound, right? Some EQ stuff here. Now that's a very different lower gain sound than we earlier had on the Plexi side. Also neat. But again, that's not why you buy this amp, says Dave. Let's see if we get it a little bit tighter by applying the bright cap, so by dialing volume 1 down. Because it can be very tight, at least the big one. Yeah, the tightness is back. Definitely gets a bit tighter there. So, let's do the gain style stuff. Definitely a different kind of gain creeps into the sound. If you also want it tighter, don't have the fat on, but I kind of like the fat. Let's go to the other gain style, which is still the postmaster volume, but with added clip. But in the middle, it's got that rawness. The pre-EQ master volume, gain style to the left, has the most gain, whereas the post-EQ master volume to the right, and in the middle, but to the right, has a tiny bit less gain, but is more open. And then in the middle, no added clipping, is the most open and the least gain. Leaves one thing. I mean, should we push this with a tube screamer? Is there a point? I don't think so. But we're gonna put this in the middle, and why not? Because someone wants to know the shit. You get a tiny bit more tightness. Isn't that something I could get another way? Let's see. Yeah, Friedman's got this built in. You don't need a freaking tube screamer. Or a Friedman tube screamer, which doesn't exist. Weird. Why doesn't it exist? Because you don't need it. Leads. Gonna go to the most gain. Kick in the mids. Delay, if you ask me, dangerous. It's an absolute dream for leads, for that chunky 80s dense rhythm, but not being 5150-ish. It's a dream amp if you don't break it the way I did and just crank up everything. Because you should never do that on any amp, because that's ridiculous, even on a 21 amp. Yes, it is still not cheap, but it is the lowest price you could pay for an Aerodonted modded Plexi with the official Jose label, Dave's name on it. And if you set it up wrong, Dave's gonna yell at you. You know, when we're wrong, and we admit it. He's gonna rub that in forever. I'm happy to have the big one. However, to get that feel, I can go to this. The one thing that the big one does, there's a very specific kind of setting where you're doing like fast palm mutes, and it's very, very, very precise, even though there's a lot of gain. And this does that too, but this feels a bit different. This is, you know, tiny differences. I don't get quite the same feeling for that kind of setting out of the little one, but I mean, really, honestly, who cares? It's a fucking amazing amp. That's what I gotta say. I hope that this second video that I now made fixes what I broke in the first one. That being said, links below, please use them. Like and subscribe. Subscribe to the newsletter. And Dave, I'm looking forward to you coming here and kicking my ass. Animals at the end.